the Mohawks look quite Nordic.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were back in the days of the Montauk Project, were you aware that they were using the Kundalini energy of children to power the machine?
I was, because I was involved in that.
Okay, and how were you involved in that?
I was the guy that after the Montauk boys were torn apart and each part programmed for different things, it became my assignment to put them back together again.
But you weren't a psychologist.
Back into public. Hmm?
But you weren't a trained psychologist, right? You were an engineer.
Well, I started out in psychology.
You did.
And I don't want to offend anyone in the psychological field, but when I got to the point that they were analyzing the mind using statistics, I said, that's the biggest bunch of malarkey I ever heard. At that point, I knew the quantum model was a better model, but the school I was going to wouldn't teach it. So at that point, I went into electronics and studied the quantum model of the mind on my own.
Okay.
This is probably what got me into the Montauk Project.
Who was it that recruited you into the project?
I'm not going to name any actual people.
All right. Were there any ex-Nazi scientists involved?
Well, this is something Al Bielek talked of a lot, but I didn't see many of them.
Okay. What about, I don't know if you would say there was a Dr. von Neumann that was involved?
Yep.
Okay.
He was purely a physicist and a mathematician.
Mm-hmm. So when they were doing their experiments, do you know what they were trying to do when they actually went into, they tried to time travel. Where were they going? Do you know?
Yeah, there was a lot of work going to Mars and other planets, and they were going back in time.
Okay.
It looked like
were they trying to...
It looked like they were trying to influence World War II.
Okay, but the Montauk Project happened, let's see, it ended in 1983 that I'm aware of, right?
Although it looks like it went on, but I wasn't that involved with it.
Okay, but when did it start? Approximately what year? Was it 1945?
No, it actually started in the late 60s, about 67 to 68.
Okay. So
I first ran into it at Brookhaven National Laboratory.
Oh, I see. Did you guys ever go out to Los Alamos?
No, I went out to Sandia.
Oh, you did?
That's where basically I did my work on quantum electronics, was at Sandia. That's why there's no records of most of my degrees.
Okay. Okay, so they were going into, first of all, you said they were going back in time. You think they were trying to influence World War II, which had already happened. So what was their objective at that point?
Well, close as I could gather on that is that before we influenced World War II, Nazi Germany won it.
Okay. And then when we influenced it, what happened?
Then the Allies won it.
I always thought that the Allies winning was kind of a massaging of the sort of scenario. I mean, what seemed to have happened was there was almost a merging. In other words, because the Nazis really came over to the U.S. and basically took control eventually over here. So in a sense, one would say that they still are, I mean, I don't know if you know Jim Marrs, but Jim Marrs would say, you know, they're alive and well and fully operational. In fact, the Bush family's still running the country.
Mm-hmm. And then another group says the country is being run by aliens.
Well, I would say behind the Bush cabal are aliens, but they're service to self.
Right now, this country is being run by greed. Pure greed.
Okay, well, that's one of the most basic levels, sure. Now, in terms of this time travel and going into Mars, do you think that they were able to contact the Anunnaki when they did this?
At that time, I didn't know.
What do you think
we
now?
have been in touch with the Anunnaki.
Okay. And are you aware of the Clark McClelland sort of testimony that talks about, you know, this very, very tall spaceman that's, do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So that was an Anunnaki, right?
Say again?
That was an Anunnaki. That was supposedly, Clark McClelland always said that he saw this very large, tall being instructing a couple of our astronauts on a television screen.
Mm-hmm.
That was.
Well, if the beings he's talking of were almost like black Africans, yeah.
I see. But they were very tall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, so that when they went to Mars, and I'm not sure where else, do you think that they were going into the fourth dimension in order to make contact?
No, it was all in this dimension.
Okay. And did, in other words, were you involved in that part of it? Did you go yourself in your own, I don't know, physically or mentally?
No, I didn't.
So, and who did? I mean, I know Duncan Cameron powered the chair, but who actually went?
A number of people went.
Anyone that we know of? Are these people known or not?
Well, Stu Swerdlow went.
Okay. And are you in touch with Stuart?
No, I'll probably see him in a couple of weeks.
Okay. So that's...
I haven't talked to Stuart since 9/11.
Oh, really? Well, that should be a very interesting experience for you guys to get back together.
Well, we'll see.
Okay. So do you know that how they went to, when they did time travel, did they go through a kind of a vortex or tunnel?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They did?
Mm-hmm.
And were you able to see it in operation at all?
I saw it on TV monitors.
You did? What did you see?
Well, there was this room that was about 30 foot square, and the particle accelerator would be started up, being fed by the information from the amplifiers and the transmitter. And when the accelerator got close to the speed of light, the magnetic coils would focus it right down the center in the middle of this room, and you would see like this whirling distortion starting at the edge of the room, going down into the middle, going to a point in the middle of the room, sometimes it was off center, and then you'd see this hole in the floor open up.
Okay. And then what would happen?
Oh, the people that were going to go through it would jump into it.
They jump into the hole. Okay. At that point, what would you see them disappear, or would you follow? Were you able to follow it? Did they have? I don't know if they followed them with cameras or what.
We were able to follow them pretty much to the 0 point.
And then after the 0 point, what happened?
Well, at that point, they would be re-expanding into physicality in a different space and time.
Right. But could you would no longer see them at that point?
No, we wouldn't see them here.
Okay. Were they able to ever bring anything with them?
Mm-hmm.
They were. So they could bring a camera, for example.
Well, that's how we know what happened on the other end.
Well, you also know by
reports of the
testimony.
people and cameras that they recorded after they got through the 0 point.
Okay, so that's interesting. So not only the humans would go, but were their bodies dematerializing, then rematerializing?
That's what it looked like.
Okay, and so the same process would be happening with something physical like a camera, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Well, at the 0 point, everything is, matter is literally deconstructed, and it's a frequency pattern that goes through the 0 point, and then the vortex spinning opposite reconstructs the matter based upon the frequency transform that's coming through the 0 point.
And did you have anybody get stuck over there?
Yeah, people were lost.
Because
They only let me go through it a couple of times later on when they knew it was working. It was the most scary thing I ever went through. It was like you're dying and then being recreated again.
So you did go in there?
Twice.
Where did you go?
Once I went back to the forest fires on Long Island in the, I guess it would be about 96, 97, 95. And then another time I went back to World War II.
Okay, the forest fires on Long Island, what do you mean 96 or 97? Are you talking in 1990 or 1896?
1990.
Okay, that would have been forward at that time.
Yes, I went forward.
Okay, so you went forward to forest fires on Long Island, and then you also went backward.
I had videos of myself at a younger age, working with the forest fires on Long Island.
Okay, but when it got to 1990, did you work with forest fires, or was that another parallel reality of you?
No, the forest fires were real.
No, but what I meant is, when you lived through 90s. If you time traveled there in advance, when you got there in real time, in the time that we know now, did you do that, or was that another part of you?
No, it was me.
So you fought forest fires.
That's one of the ways. That's one of the ways I got in trouble.
How did you? What do you mean?
After I saw myself on the local news, I went looking.
You went looking
for myself.
Okay, so when you say you got in trouble,
when the powers that be got very upset.
Okay, is that back in the 90s when you went looking for yourself, or did you go looking for yourself recently?
No, in the 90s.
Okay, and why did they get upset?
They didn't want me meeting myself out of the past.
I see. And were you able to?
I'm not going to go into that.
Okay. Why wouldn't they want you to meet yourself in the past?
Because they've been trying to discredit everything I've been saying, and I might have got proof of it.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, do you recognize that there are parallel realities?
Yes, sure.
Okay. And so I guess what I was asking is, do you think that you went into a parallel reality when you went forward or backward into time, or do you think that you stayed on the same timeline?
Well, in this case, it was the same timeline.
Okay. And what about, you said you also went forward, you said you also went backward to World War II?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you find yourself then?
I was in Germany.
Okay. And were you a soldier? What was your role?
I was a scientist.
In Germany?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A scientist. And I really can't go any deeper into that either.
Oh, okay. Can you say what country you were from in that life?
Well, I was from the U.S.
So you were visiting
scientists. In the early 80s.
Okay, but the World War II happened, in the 1940s. So when you went... Yep. Okay, so are you saying that you were time traveling into that time as a scientist?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In Germany?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Germany, in other words, the Germans were working with time travel? Do you think that they made a lot of advances with the Nazi bell?
Well, they had the sound and the sound and light time travel device. The bell was something else.
Okay, well, tell me about the bell, because I've actually been there.
I really cannot go into that.
But it's quite fascinating, isn't it?
I'm not going to go into that.
Okay. Well, I understand. Did you happen to see the movie Contact with Jodie Foster?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the device that they showed in the movie was accurate at all?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Did they happen to go to the moon when they were time traveling in Montauk?
Yes, we went to the moon.
Okay. And at the time...
We went to every planet in the solar system and every moon.
Really?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, can you tell me, when you went to the moon, what
I
race?
didn't go to the moon.
Okay.